And that's what that we would meet in an interdisciplinary team setting. And then finally, apply relationship building values and the principles of team dynamics to perform effectively in different team roles to plan, deliver, and evaluate patient population-centered care. So again, being respectful of what one another does, working collaboratively as a team member, and then trying to get our older adults through it, sometimes it would be a continuum of care. So while we might know this when we're actually working in the field, those of us who are in education know that the best way to do for someone who graduates is to get to know this while they're still a student. So that being said, back in 2017, 2019, I was fortunate enough to receive a very large grant from HRSA, the Health Service Research Administration. And this was in preparing nurse practitioners to become preceptors of tomorrow. Well, our nurse practitioners who are adult gerontology nurse practitioners often work with members of other disciplines. And probably like some of the other disciplines who are represented here, we are really required to teach interprofessional training and to have opportunities for students to experience working with other team members. Well, interestingly enough, this project completed in 2019, and here we are. It's March tomorrow. We realized that when we hit 2020, I can tell you that having a set of clinical video simulations became extremely popular, not only with our practitioner faculty within the School of Nursing, but actually I shared these videos with nurse practitioner faculty across programs in the United States. That being said, I was also fortunate in 2021 to receive another grant, and in that grant, we were able to also develop more clinical video simulations. And when we prepared the next set of video simulations, I knew that what I wanted to do was to have more that represented more disciplines and show actually examples of interprofessional team meetings. So this is the actual site that we can go to. And what I'm going to do at the end of my short presentation here, I'm actually going to show you two of the videos so you can really appreciate what it would be like if you showed them in class and kind of give you ideas on how they might be beneficial to use. So the first case that we developed was taking care of an aging veteran in long-term care. And in this particular video, the whole concept was, how can we keep an older adult within the long-term care setting, not needing them to send them off to the hospital? And so in this scenario, we have the nurse practitioner who assessed the patient. And in the state of North Carolina, our nurse practitioners still have to work with the supervising physician. But in this case, she actually reports to the physician, and he acknowledges and agrees with all of her recommendations. In addition, nurse practitioners have to work with registered nurses who are members of the healthcare team, and so she's reporting off. And then in addition, we knew that what would be important in this particular scenario was to include a social worker. And she's addressing the family member who is trying to understand what it would mean if her father would need to eventually move into hospice care. So he's in a long-term care facility, but now is going to need hospice care down the road. What would that mean? Does his veterans benefits qualify? And she was very beneficial in this scenario, explaining that information to the family member. The next scenario, one that we did this past summer, was an older gentleman who was experiencing anxiety and depression. In this scenario, he had lost his wife to COVID. He was not used to being by himself. In this situation, he comes in, he's just angry, and he's been taking out some of his frustration on his daughter. And while he had been treated for depression, he just really wanted maybe something besides elevate, or increase his depression medication. Was there something else that we could do? So in this scenario, we we're going to refer him to a licensed clinical social worker. And in this scene, which I will show you later, she actually meets with him. And one of his initial things was he was so used to his wife preparing the meals, and now he's barely even knows how to do that. And for her to show him how to find resources in the community. I don't know about the rest of you, but part of our curriculum now is we really try to focus on the social determinants of health. And in this situation, showing an actual very interesting site, it's called findhelp.org. And so she literally pulls up, asks him, you'll hear later on, what is his zip code, pulls up and shows what are the resources that are literally within this community that he might take advantage of. And then the last scenario, which I will show you, was a case of a gentleman in long-term care who had a wound, and he's there because he's waiting for the wound to heal. But then following that, we knew that we needed an interprofessional approach to wound care. So in this scenario, we also have a social worker, and we have a dietitian and the registered nurse. So these are, I will show you actually the two of them. The anxiety and depression, and then the interprofessional wound care case. So in preparing this presentation, what I did was, I always think there's a value of finding resources that are credible, that have been vetted, that you could include in your course materials. So in researching for this presentation, this is a site that has additional IPE educational videos. I think on here are about 8 of them. And what I liked about this particular site is that they're literally linked to the different core competencies. So if you need to, in a course, explain about interprofessional care and you really want to start at the beginning, you could actually use these videos. And what I would suggest in using these videos is you could do like what I do. I'll save the video in Canvas, pull it up within Studio, and then I intersperse discussion questions. And I have found that really works as an innovative way, I should say, instead of, as I call, a dry discussion board. So that way you could have the students answer a question, and then, in a way, we really know that they watched the video and they respond nicely to it. So there's this particular site. This site is a site called Med Portal, and what's interesting about this, it has information on interprofessional education, but also if you go onto this site, there are the way they publish the articles, because it's the Journal of I think it's like online education. They will give you the entire scenario that you could actually use similar ones in your own class. Like they'll have, if there's links to videos, if there are assessment tools for simulation, it's just really a great site. And I happened to notice today that there was actually a call for papers for scenarios in geriatric education. So I thought, oh gosh, this is calling me to actually write an article and to send in information about some of the work that I did pertaining to my older adult cases, because in total, while I've just shared with you the ones that were interprofessional, we developed, I think it's 11 in total that pertain specifically to older adults. And then this is another site that had a number of interprofessional videos, which again are linked to the core competencies. So again, I present this to you as a way to have information that you could include within your learning management system, within your courses. It's quite easy to do, and I think we're always trying to find ways to be innovative in ways that we teach. I think we learn a lot when Rachel presents to us. As far as Rebecca said, I always refer to them as learning objects, but I think it definitely makes a difference. I mean, what I've certainly learned is you have to take the time to review the video. And sometimes in searching, if you do it too quickly, you will be like, oh my gosh, I'm glad I didn't upload that one. I won't even get into one that I found when I was searching for theories of aging. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to actually show you the video so you can see what these scenarios were, the two that I was referring to. Stop share.
I think you muted yourself, Laurie.
Go back to find the share screen.
Yeah.
There we go. There we go.
You also want to click share sound. You're going to show it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, can you all hear me now? Okay.
You should be able to, so you do stop share.
But I want them to see this.
Yeah, we'll redo it. We have to redo it and click share audio,
Okay.
basically, so they'll be able to hear the video too.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Where do I do that?
Share screen, like before, but then this time we want to check that box, share sound, and that should do it.
Okay. So this is the site where the videos that I was referring to that you can see. I will certainly give a shout out to one of our librarians, Sam Harlow, introduced me to the concept of creating a site using Google Sites. And one of a former UNCG employees, Susie Bolds, was someone who introduced me to using H5P to make my videos interactive. Now, the way the videos are set up, they're completely available in YouTube format, which I will show you. But for our nurse practitioner students, I made them interactive, so that became a formative type of evaluation. H5P is a free platform as a way to add questions, and it worked very nicely. So, over to our older adult simulations. All right. So before I start this one of the things in this video, any of you who teach in a program where we want students to learn the value of using objective measures, and for them to sort of realize that they really are objective in the way that if I did a geriatric depression scale short version, which you'll see in this, and then student next to them and the next to them, if we all get the same score, then they can learn that this is really a valuable tool. So in this video, you'll hear them actually do this assessment on this older gentleman. And what I do when sharing with the students, I actually make sure I give them all a copy of the scale. And then when they're finished, when they all see that they all get the same results, I think it really adds to the value of using these type of instruments. Good morning, Mr. Jones. How are you doing?
Well, I lost my wife 8 months ago, and things have really been difficult. I find myself getting angry a lot quicker. A lot of times I get angry at my daughter just because maybe she's late getting me to my appointments and other things, and that's not good at this point. It's just something that makes me sad when I'm getting on her for something like that, so small.
Okay. Well, increasing anger and sadness can often be a sign of that something else is going on. So would you be all right if I asked you a set of questions so I could get a better understanding of what's happening?
Yes.
Okay, so these questions you just have to answer yes or no. Are you basically satisfied with your life?
Yes.
Have you dropped many of your activities and interest?
Yes.
Do you feel that your life is empty?
No.
Do you often get bored?
No.
Are you in good spirits most of the time?
No.
Are you afraid that something bad is going to happen to you?
No.
Do you feel happy most of the time?
No.
Do you often feel helpless?
No.
Do you prefer to stay at home rather than going out and doing things?
Yes.
Do you feel that you have more problems with memory than most?
No.
Do you think it's wonderful to be alive now?
No.
Do you feel worthless the way you are now?
No.
Do you feel full of energy?
No.
Do you feel that your situation is hopeless?
No.
Do you feel that most people are better off than you are now?
Yes.
Okay. Well, thank you for answering those questions. I'd like to ask you a few more. So think about this past week. Are you having any problem with your appetite?
I feel hungry a lot, but I just don't have the appetite.
Okay. Are you having any problems sleeping?
Yes, a lot of times I'm waking up, since I lost my wife, I'm waking up 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning and can't get back to sleep. And a lot of times during the day, I'm very tired.
Well, that's understandable if you're waking up at night. Are you having any problems with worrying?
No.
No? Okay. How about any problems with focusing on activity?
Well, I don't have a lot of problems focusing, but a lot of times I don't read as much as I used to.
Okay. Are you having any sense of hopelessness or not wanting to be alive?
No.
Okay. All right. So this is what I'm thinking. I'd like to recommend that you have psychotherapy. I'm thinking this would be helpful instead of increasing your antidepressant medication that you're on now. How does that sound?
Anything that would help me so I won't have to take as much as medicine as I have.
Okay. The thought with the psychotherapy is to help you work through the grief of losing your wife and this feeling of anger that you've been experiencing. So I would recommend to you a licensed clinical social worker. She could talk to you about dealing with your grief and losing your wife. And also, I know you shared with me that some of the things you miss about your wife are things that she used to do, like meal preparation. And she could share with you community resources. She's in the building now, so she can come and see you today, and you can get acquainted and set up future appointments. And then if that sounds okay, then I would like you to come back and see me in about 2 weeks, just so I could see how things are going.
Great, that sounds great.
All right, well, I think we have a plan.
Thank you.
Mr. Jones, my name's Shayla, and I'm one of the social workers. The nurse practitioner asked me to come in and speak with you. She said you were having a little bit of difficulty at home, especially following the loss of your wife.
Yes, that's true. Things have been very different since that time.
I'm sorry for your loss, sir. I'm going to go ahead and set up an appointment for the future, somewhere down the line, for you and I to get together and speak with each other. But for today, I wanted to share with you a website with some of the resources for the community. She said that one of the things that you're having a little bit more difficulty with was some of the things that your wife used to do for you.
Exactly, and I really do miss those times, so anything would be helpful at this point.
Yeah, okay. So we've got this great website that shows community resources by zip code. What is your zip code, Mr. Jones?
My zip code is 27407.
Thank you. Let's get that. Now, one of the things that the nurse practitioner mentioned that your wife used to do for you was to make meals for you, and you're having a hard time preparing meals for yourself. Is that correct?
That's correct. I'm not a good cook, so I miss those things as well.
I'll bet. So this page of the website shows different food resources within your community. Now, some of them are food delivery, and then down here we have community meals that you might want to attend. If you felt like getting out and eating with some other folks, if that you felt like that would be something you might want to take care of.
That sounds good. I probably need to get out a little more.
Yeah, okay. Well, I'm going to print off all of this information for you so you can take it with you when you leave, okay? When you do come back to see me, you and I can maybe get together and talk about some of the ways for you to process your grief. And perhaps we can talk about ways for you to get back into some of the things that you used to enjoy doing before your wife got ill and passed away, if that would be okay.
That's something I'd like to try.
Okay.
I think that'll be very helpful.
Okay, that sounds like a good plan. So we'll do that when we get together next time, and maybe we could find some other community resources if you have some things that you might need some help with.
Yes, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
All right, thank you, Mr. Jones. I look forward to seeing you next time.
All right.
Oh,
I don't do those. Okay. So yeah, escape. And then if you go back to Zoom.
Now, I'll just interject that Sheila was in the very first class when I first offered the introductory gerontology class for the first time. And she completed the minor, went on to get her MSW. And I believe she's an instructor in social work now. I think I saw her on the faculty list.
Come in.
Hi, Mr. Barr. My name is Autumn Henson. I'm a gerontological nurse practitioner here at the facility with the provider team. I came to see you and see how you're doing with your legs and your wound. I hope you slept well last night.
I did very well last night.
They can't see it.
Oh.
So unless if it's bothering you.
No.
We'll be glad to get home and get back in my own bed.
I understand that completely. So I came to see you. They were telling me a little bit about your wound on your leg, and I just want to follow up with you and see how things are going. How are you doing in therapy?
It's painful. It was painful because when the action of the moving of the leg, it does create some pain.
So how are you doing otherwise? How are you doing with any other trouble or anything else going on?
No, not really.
Okay, all right. Any headache or dizziness or trouble swallowing or increase in your cough or pain in your chest or your abdomen?
No, the only thing is I do have COPD, and when I walk distances, I'll get short of breath, and maybe I'll cough occasionally then.
What about your joints? Do you have a lot of joint pain?
Yes, I do. I have arthritis in my shoulders, my neck. It's been bothering my back and hips somewhat too.
Okay.
But the biggest thing right now is my leg.
Your leg. So tell me a little bit more about your leg. Does it hurt whenever you sleep at night or when you wake up in the morning? Or is it mainly when you're up walking and walking further distances?
It is mainly when I'm up walking.
Okay.
Once I stop walking, I'll get in my recliner, put my leg up, or when I'm in bed at night, it doesn't hurt.
Okay. And what about swelling? Do you have a lot of swelling in your legs?
Yes, I do have swelling.
Okay, all right. Is it mainly when you wake up in the morning? Is it like mostly whenever you're beginning to go to bed at night?
When I go to bed at night, it's when I smell it large.
Okay, all right. So let's just go ahead. I'm going to listen to your heart and lungs, kind of look at your skin. Is it okay if I take a look at your wound?
Yes.
Okay, when was the last time the nurse actually changed the dressing?
It has not been changed today.
Okay, all right. Well, I think what we're going to do is I'm going to go ahead and take a look at this wound and see how it looks, and then we'll go make some different decisions from there. How's that sound?
Sounds good.
All right.
Pretty good acting.
How is your leg feeling right now after we took the dressing off?
It's always painful when they take the dressing off and they change the bandages.
Okay. Is it burning and stinging right now?
Somewhat, yes.
All right.
Good makeup too.
Okay. What I'm going to do is I'm going to actually go and speak with the staff here at the facility and just see if they can make some decisions about some stuff that maybe we can do while you're here in the facility. There's something called electrical stimulation that they can actually do, and it's just a little machine that will help kind of get some vibrations on your leg, and it will help some of that blood flow to help the wound heal faster. And is that something you might be interested in?
Yes, anything that'll make me feel better
Okay.
and get me home.
I'm also going to actually speak with the dietitian. I noticed that your protein was a little bit low when you're in the hospital. And just see if she can give you some tips on how to get you a little bit more protein in your diet.
Protein, I eat a lot of meat.
Well, that's true, and that's okay. Protein is part of meat, but there's some other products out there that maybe you could try, and you don't have to eat a whole overload of a steak and a lot of other protein. Is that okay if I speak with her?
Yes, ma'am, it is.
All right. And then I'm also going to speak with your social worker because I know that you're very ready to get home and be discharged. But I do want to speak with her to see if we can get you some support at home just to get a little bit more therapy whenever you leave and also get some treatment for your wound and maybe have a nurse come by a couple of times a week to help with the dressings. I know that I understand that you live by yourself
I do.
and you do have some family support there that may help you out a little bit.
Yes, ma'am, but no, don't have anybody in immediate vicinity there.
Okay. So I may speak with them so that it's not so much of a burden on your family to kind of help you out sometimes. I'm quite sure they'll probably want to help you out a lot,
Yes.
but it may be a little bit easier.
But it'd be good to have someone come in because it's very painful for me trying to change the bandage myself. And I can't ask my girlfriend to do any more for me because she's always so busy. And my daughter lives far distance away, 90 miles away, and she's not available. So it'd be good to have someone come in.
All right, well, we'll check that out. I'm also going to speak with your nurse and see if we can get some changes with your treatment. And maybe it won't hurt so bad whenever we change the treatment, but also help making sure that it heals faster.
That sounds good.
All right. Okay. Well, thank you so much, Mr. Barr, and I will see you tomorrow.
Okay, thank you.
Take care, Mr. Barr. So thank you guys for meeting with me today and just kind of going over some ideas to take care of Mr. Barr. He is definitely ready to go home. So I think as our team, we can just really get that plan together and get him out of here safely and home with his family. Sharniqua, thank you so much for meeting and just kind of share with us your ideas and thoughts of really helping with his dietary needs and nutrition for that wound healing and his plan to go home.
I reviewed his labs and I also spoke with him about his meal patterns at home. He's only getting protein from chicken, which is not enough to meet his needs. So I ordered a ProStat AWC daily for 10 days. I'm also going to add an Ensure High Protein twice daily for during his visit while he's here. I'm also going to recommend a multivitamin daily with minerals so he can get vitamin C's, E, and zinc to help with collagen formation to get our wound healing going. I'm also going to speak with him about some of the foods he eats at home, see if I can encourage him to eat some of the fruits and vegetables that he likes, give him a list of protein sources for discharge, to give sources like things of eggs, fish, beans, cheese, Greek yogurts. And Greek yogurts and cheeses would be easy for him to incorporate in his meals, so he can just grab those as snacks. I'm also going to see if social work can see if he can get insurance to take home, as well as he would like to participate in Meals on Wheels programs since he is at home by himself.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Shayla, so what ideas do you have to get him ready to go home safely, get him with home health, and get that wound taken care of with primary care and everything? Just share with your ideas.
Yeah, okay. I've got my assessment sheet right here with me. I'm going to go over a few things with him. I want to find out how things are looking for him at home. I want to know how many stairs does he have to climb at home? What does his bathroom look like? Does he have any modification? Does he have any adaptive equipment at home? Does he need any? How's he doing with his IADLs? I also want to find out more about his insurance coverage. I want to make sure that when I refer him to the PCP, I'm referring him to the right one for that wound therapy. And when I do get him to follow up with that PCP, if he agrees that I can do that, that he's all set with transportation as well. I mean, I know his wound is healing well and he's looking pretty good, but driving on that leg, might be a little sketchy. So I want to make sure if he doesn't have anyone available to help him with that, I can probably set him up with something through his insurance company. So we'll have to check that out and see what that looks like and make sure that he knows that he has those options. I also want to know if he's using the MyChart system, and if he isn't, if that's something that he might want to review while he's here, and we could get that set up for him while we've got him here with us. Also, I blocked out a little bit more extra time to go see with him because I know he's a social worker and I'd really like to hang out with him and spend a little time with him. I heard that Mr. Barr is super cool and I'd love to pick his brain about how social work has changed over the years.
Thank you so much. Those are great ideas, and I think that's really going to help him out to get home safe. So, Jennifer, I know you know Mr. Barr best and definitely what's going on with him. Kind of talk a little bit about how he's doing right now and what changes do we need to make to really get that wound started up healing faster and get him home a lot faster.
We all love Mr. Barr. He is the most pleasant patient. When you go in to talk, he's wanting to stay, but I promise if you go today, he's going to tell you he's ready to go home. He's participating in therapy. He's participating with physical, OT, all of those things. The only problem I really see is the wound dressings. They're painful for him. He doesn't want to really do them. He kind of puts them off as long as he can. We try to saturate the dressing before we remove it, offer him his PRN Tylenol, even with the tramadol. He just is really resistant to that. He has his girlfriend and his daughter who are very supportive and very excited about him coming home. But I do notice that when I go to change the dressing and the girlfriend is with me, she'll turn away. The daughter, however, is right up in there with me. She's wanting to know what's going on, very involved in his care. Again, they just really want to get him home, but before he goes home, she wants to kind of figure out what they can do about the legs. It seems like the longer he's up during the day, towards the end of the night, he starts to weep a little bit and they're starting to get more swollen. But other than that, they are ready to get him home if we can just kind of get this, what's going on with his legs.
Those are great ideas. I'm definitely going to work on his pain management, and I think changing up that treatment a little bit is going to make a big difference and maybe even help his pain. So those are great ideas. All right. Thank you guys so much. This is going to definitely help out Mr. Barr a lot, and I appreciate the team.
Oh. Space bar, this one.
Then I'm sorry.
Okay. All right. Good. Oh, I think I'm starting over again. Hold on. All right, so those are the two videos that I wanted to share. And again, they're from that site. They're certainly free for anyone to use. I greatly appreciated the faculty in nutrition who had recommended the students. There was another case, although it's a younger adult, who ends up with hepatitis C, and we had one of the nutrition students working with that gentleman, which worked out nicely. I do believe there are many other scenarios that could be certainly created. You know, whether or not I seek more funding or not, I really enjoy being in the video business. My office is over at Union Square, and when that building was designed, it was really designed with simulation in mind. So we literally have over there an entire apartment, which we were able to use for the nursing home room. I've used it as an apartment setting, and then we have office space, which is really nice. So this is what I had to share. I'll be more than happy to take any questions or thoughts, because I think there's other disciplines that we have on campus that we could get involved in doing these scenarios. You know, like I think of our faculty who are in speech therapy, in counseling. So I just think it's an interesting way for students. And it also, we can't always guarantee they're going to have these opportunities. And I think that's where simulation takes place. And by having them recorded and making them interactive, it also kind of gives the faculty a chance to get a formative evaluation right away on students.
Do you want to field questions? Or?
Oh, yeah, I'm certainly, if anybody has any.
I actually wanted to mention, Matthew, if you could describe the business you're in, it seems this is really relevant.
Yeah, so Choice Care Navigators provides geriatric care management for older adults in Guilford County, and I like to say the peripheral as well, because we also have clients in Mebane. We've got a client in Hamlet, North Carolina, and we really help families with either short-term or long-term solutions. We're really great for people who live outside of Greensboro, but their loved ones live here. The best example I can give you of our longest running client is an individual that lives in the independent living section of a CCRC here in town. But because of something that happened to her when she was younger, she's permanently and mentally in a childlike state, and her power of attorney lives in Sweden. And so we are the boots on the ground to check on her every week. Even though she's in independent living, she has 24-hour home care with 2 different companies. So we manage those caregivers in the company. We stock her up on supplies. We're with her when she goes to the doctor's office or to the hospital. We speak with the power of attorney regularly. We make recommendations based on what's going on in her life. So that's sort of like a long-term client. We also do short-term solutions. Sometimes families just don't know what's going on with their older adult loved one, and want an expert to come in and kind of help with something that might take a family 35 to 40 hours to research. It takes us about 3 to 5 because we already know all the resources, things of that sort. We're a team of experts, so it's myself. I've got 13 years experience in retirement communities, plus the master's in gerontology, as well as just a 1.5 years experience as a care manager now. We also have a social worker on our staff with decades of experience. We have a registered nurse on our staff, so she can do medication management, as well as just kind of checking in, check vitals, things of that sort, be the translator sometimes between the doctors and the family members. Family members have questions. The owner of our company, Dr. Corinne Alman, I believe used to teach at UNCG as well. And so she's been running things for 9 years. And we're also nationally certified as guardians. So we can provide guardianship for people. We've got a couple of clients that we're guardians over right now. That's really great for people that live in retirement communities where you really don't want that line being crossed between a resident and a staff member. You don't want a staff member to come in and help pay bills or to become their power of attorney, things of that sort. So we can, as a third party, come in and provide those services, just to keep things on the level for that client. So with those short-term solutions, families can have us come in and do a needs assessment. We'll come into the home or the retirement community or wherever the individual is, do a needs assessment. We try to do a holistic look at what's going on with the individual, make our recommendations, and then we can connect them to resources such as the retirement community, home care companies, adult day centers, et cetera, whatever we feel like is important. And we always try to give multiple options as well so that the family can do the process of figuring out what's the best fit for that individual. So instead of looking at 15 communities, we narrow it down to 3 based on that individual's circumstances. So it's a really great resource for people that, want an expert's guide, need some help right away. And, maybe they've got children of their own and, they've got their own jobs. So we can kind of come in and be professionals in that situation.
And when my mother had her dementia was advancing and we thought we were going to have to put her in long-term care, I called Corinne and she walked me through all of the options and, it turned out we didn't need to go that direction, but we were ready to do it. And it was really reassuring, like, as you've shown, Laurie, to have an interprofessional team working on, instead of just talking and having to contact one person at a time.
There's a movie that came out a couple of years ago about guardianships for folks, and it, I think, scared a lot of people. It's called I Care a Lot.
Yeah.
It's fictionalized.
Oh, gosh, that,
Oh,
yeah.
But it might make for a really interesting conversation or growth to have or to host, because I think it freaked out. I mean, my parents are in their 60s and 70s. It's as we deal with our own aging relatives, how do we take advantage of services without making sure that we don't make mistakes legally or something?
yeah, absolutely. And
There was another movie, sorry, Matt, to cut you, that wasn't as sensationalized. No, I think it was fearful, but I think the fear comes from a good place, or a place that is reflective of what could happen potentially. I think it was just too much Hollywood, and there were parts of that movie that were just unrealistic. But there's a documentary. It does not decrease the fear; it will only increase your fear.
Oh, wow.
But there's a documentary out of a case out of Arizona. I believe it was Arizona. It was somewhere out west that was actually dealing with the same issues, decision making, healthcare proxy, stuff like that, and guardianship. And it was I showed it in my I taught an elder abuse class, a 400 level undergraduate course, and we watched that documentary. And it was alarming in terms of it's not only potentially what's being done to your parent or your older relative, but that systemically these things could be completely legal and completely allowed, and we're not catching perhaps some cracks of the larger kind of political system of what gives people the power to make some choices. So I would also, if I can find that, I would also recommend that documentary because it was excellent. Although, I'm not assuaging any fears about it.
And it's so important to highlight because even with the acting power of guardianship, the case that we have in Hamlet, I went down there and went through the 5 wishes document.
Okay.
Because although we have the legal authority to make whatever decision we want, we don't think as care managers that's the right thing to do. We still want to make sure we're honoring that person's wishes. So we went through the document together and I read over it with him and he decided what he wanted for his own future. So, but that can occur where someone has a guardian but still voices their opinion and that guardian goes, I kind of want this to happen instead. So yeah, it can go down a bad slope for sure.
I wonder if anyone on the screen wants to, Carl's got his hands up.
Hey, y'all. Sorry I couldn't be there in person. Laurie, thank you. Great presentation. And sort of a group plea question is, part of our new HHS bachelor's is that it incorporates more cohesively interprofessional education experiences, as well as, specific scenarios similar to what you presented. So I hope maybe we can reach out to you and learn a little bit from what you've gleaned, and your technical skill, which I thought was really, really nicely done. So it's sort of a plea as well as we may be reaching out to you once we have a director in place and we can start to think about how to integrate what we've put on paper.
I'll be happy to.
Do you have plans for your website? Now that Google is going bye-bye?
That's a great question that I don't know, especially because I said these videos literally are being used in programs throughout the United States and maybe even in other countries.
I don't think we're losing YouTube, but anyway, the library can.
Oh, yeah, no, I don't want them to, to disappear, but I do think that there's, coming up with these scenarios, I really think it definitely helps students, and your mind can just keep going on different situations. And sometimes we have to make them even difficult ones because we can't count on, we have some individual cases, and one, literally, we aged a woman 15 years. So she starts out, she comes in, she ends up having a diagnosis of hypothyroidism. She moves into pre-frailty. She goes into progressive memory loss. And this is a woman I actually had known for years because she used to do live simulations. And she literally said to me, "Are you going to kill me off?" I'm like, "What?" Well, lo and behold, the final case we did for her was on death and dying. And so the nurse practitioner is talking to the daughter about what does it mean when you put your older, someone goes into hospice and you have the conversation about the medications are no longer going to be taken and things like that. But I mean, how can we, we can't always count on that students could be there. So like I said, it was just a fun way to use money, and I really enjoyed the opportunity. And again, in light of combination of COVID, we've moved so many of our programs to be online to have these kind of resources when you can't have the student, when you're not having person, that way you feel like you can really assess them. And, I think as they sit there like, wow, having scenarios where we actually have care managers come in and work through a case so that we know we feel confident to refer to something because I don't know if we know still what can one another do.
Yeah.
What is their capability and realm of things? So.
And we do free phone consultations. So if we can't help them, I always get somebody to the next step, connect them to the next person at least. So.
Right.
So
it's, sorry.
So Laurie, one of the things we've all struggled, I think Carl commented on this in the sense that we put together this new major with explicit practice in IT. So your nursing students watch these videos, great start. How do you then give them practice in those really important interactions with the nutritionist, the social worker, the
Well, I think sometimes they try to, for the nursing students, they try to design the clinical experiences that these things occur. But again, I would have, I'm not even quite sure if they have those opportunities. It's, making it in a sense, and I think that's why simulation has become popular. So at least they experience it. Now, I do think that there remains still IPE experiences for students on this campus. I don't know how extensive that is, but it's also trying to get a lot of different, that's always been the issue. How do we get disciplines together all on the same day of the week? And that's just been,
right. It's really, it's the main reason that most of the undergraduate gerontology courses are online now, because getting everybody in class at the same time is almost impossible. And I'm really glad that Carl and Kathy brought up the HHS major, because I'm thrilled about that major. I know a lot of faculty aren't, but one of the reasons I'm thrilled about it is because gerontology classes, particularly at the undergraduate level where students are all enrolled in major. And, and so it's on their mind, it happens in graduate classes too, because of people's, experience already in the field. But in undergraduate gerontology classes, we often have social workers, nutrition students, kinesiology students, et cetera, nursing students. And you can't stop the classes from being IPE.
Right.
Because the minute something comes up, whatever it is, something they've read or something someone brings up in class, and everyone's on it from their disciplinary perspective, CTR or whatever. And even online, I'm finding, since COVID, all of my undergraduate classes have been online because we found out it actually works better for the students. But even online in the discussion threads, if something comes up, everybody's all over it from their disciplinary perspective. And so I think that's, it's the reason I was so thrilled about HHS, because it meant, okay, now there will be intentionally IP classes. And
Right.
I'm thinking I'm getting ready to go. Well, I think I'm going unfazed. Who knows now that UNC might do buyouts, but in any case, it's my hope that the introductory gerontology course, which is included in this HHS major, will eventually, I think it probably is going to be Chantel who will be transitioning into teaching that as I transition out, in a few years. But I'm hoping that will be more intentionally IPE. It happens anyhow, but
I mean,
it's what needs to be done.
I think of, designing unfolding cases that the different disciplines do connect. And it'd be kind of interesting then if they could be almost like if there was enough students set up in teams that it could be different groups who come up with ideas and then they could kind of compare their ideas. But I mean, to make it more, again, there's something about seeing the patients, like, and being creative in doing that. Like you saw the wound care case. I mean, that was not a real wound. I mean, Autumn, who's a wound care nurse, did a really good job with, I brought the moulage kit in and she did it up, but it just tends to make a difference. I know, I mean, I'm looking at Kathy and I'm thinking, gosh, probably it's like 20 years ago, you would come over to Moorhead Simpkins and do balance, testing. And I just think, what if we had patients who had, for instance, like a movement disorder, Parkinson's? And to me, that's such a condition that involves so many disciplines. And, I mean, it would not be difficult to find a patient with, in our community, I'm sure would be more than willing. I think it just makes a difference to students when they can actually feel like they're interacting with someone who has these, or what does it mean when they're, and if we could even, shoot some of these even more in homes, because like I said, now we have to layer on top of it, which we should have all along, social determinants of health, and realize that people are living in, in just extremely difficult times. I mean, and how they're getting by, and how can students like that website that we shared with you, findhelp.org. I have my students in my classes come up with community resources for it. They all work with one older partner, but if there's any way, like, just contact me, Carl, because if I go off to greater glory, like not dead, but I'll be glad to come and visit.
I'm gonna make Mark Hensley happy. I'm the membership co-chair of TRALA, and there's a reduced rate, there's a student rate for students of UNCG to join the Triad Retirement Living Association. And so they could connect with professionals in this area based on what they're studying, possibly transition into a job or an internship or whatever, but they also might just have an opportunity to go and meet with older adults where they are through that organization and gain some experience that way too. So we always discuss having a meeting set up just for the gerontology students, something of that sort.
Yeah, we've had a lot of students get placements through TRALA.
Yeah.
And I wanted to mention that the other great thing about gerontology, the way we have it set up, is, for example, when you graduated, think about all the people you already knew who were in the aging network. Because, I mean, Laurie, you came in what year to your
90.
90, and that's, and you started the practitioner's program right about then, right? And gerontology started in 84. So we have a lot. I mean, I'm sure you've run into this. Most of the people have been through UNCG at some point and therefore have connected into this network. So, you know, so it's kind of a natural interprofessional network that's out there, which is a really good side effect. People asked about you at the trial, and I went to last week, Kathy. Would you go?
Off to better things.
So anyhow, there are other questions? We've still got a little time. It looks like Sudit's getting ready to say something. No. Okay.
Laurie, this is Carl. Can I ask you a,
Certainly.
you know, anytime you embark into sort of work, there's always startup, you know, energies and learning how to do it. But if you were thinking about the time it takes to sort of put together a scenario, would you have a guesstimate? You know, as the dean and administrator, you can guess that lots of people will often come to me and go, well, gosh, I don't have the time to do that. Or so I'd just be curious as you've gotten sort of into this, what it would take to put some of those together, because I really don't have a good sense.
I mean, I think you gather your materials. It takes a few days. I mean, and the filming of it. I mean, I work with my film crew enough that in a 8-hour plus day, we could almost film at least 3 of these scenarios, if not 4. You know, but I think, you know, depending on what we're looking at there, I mean, there's just a lot of it. I don't think it would take that long necessarily to do if people were given some dedicated time, but it's just hard to say.
Yeah, let me just mention that the Office of Online Learning, I think this was actually before your time, Carl, and while they were still DCL, but they used to have a wonderful video crew that did these online classes that involved scenarios. I worked on an introductory sociology one where they filmed all of this fictional stuff to illustrate sociological concepts. But I think some of those people are still employed on campus. You know, they've been repurposed. Like I think Nathan, who helped develop the gerontology program, originally had something to do with that. And then the other thing I've used for my classes when I've needed to is what now is media studies and used to be film. They have video classes, and sometimes the students are, you know, already experienced people, but they, you know, under the direction of someone like Michael Frierson or something, they make things a class project. So I've had a lot of technical support from different places on campus for film clips and things. So there's probably people around who, you know, could ease the pain of
or like I said, the crew that I work with, we all would want to get back and do it again. So, but you know, yeah.
So Laurie, would you do the post editing work, or would you just?
No, I mean the videographer did the editing work as well.
Okay.
But I'll be more than happy to talk to you about that. And then she no longer works here. Actually, Susie Bowles, who used to work over at DCL, she added the H5P and did some of that editing as well. And she did the contract work on the last grant that I had. There might be some, you know, somebody who's able to do that. But I think I think that also made the students engaged in answering the questions as well. So it was a neat feature to have.
You know,
Very
when you were
nicely done.
when you were talking about Union Square, you mentioned the apartment, but there's also a hospital room there.
No, well, yeah, over at Union Square. there's
Right. No,
lots
but
of-
I'm just saying
yeah.
it's another location we have
Oh, yeah, definitely.
where we have a fake hospital room.
Right. I mean, it's, it just was nice to film over there. And it was a lot of fun. Like in one room, we had it as the nursing home, but then I needed as a home. So I had this like quilt at home so that I could just turn it over or, you know, bring in things, but it's, I don't know. It was definitely a lot of fun. In fact, the 2 videos that I showed you that we did this year, my son who graduated from media studies is now a sound mixer and he volunteered his time and did the sound. So that was kind of fun to see you take your son to work.
So Laura, you said these videos are interactive. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, if on that particular website, you'll see where it will say H5P videos. And so when the video goes along, interspersed are questions that will pop up that they'll answer. And then when they respond, if the answer is not correct, we give them what the response would be and they can try them again. Now, it can also be set up for it to be, I think, tied into Canvas for actually even be graded as well.
But it isn't like you stop the video, it'll play, because you're working with nursing students. You don't stop the video before the nurse is about to speak and say.
The
what
video
you
actually
say.
is, I guess I would say the video actually itself is stopped. If you're doing on the online, it just goes along and then the questions literally pop up. And like sort of just time them and intersperse them that way, using H5P. If another discipline, say social work, wanted to use these videos, my suggestion is if they didn't know H5 was to do it within Canvas Studio and add the discussion questions. I mean, the only downside to that is every time you teach the class, you have to re-enter the questions. But I mean, I do that all the time.
Right. I saw Laurie, I was a consultant or something on her grant.
Oh, right.
A long time ago. So I saw her do this in a live classroom setting as well. Do you remember you gave that demonstration? And so she would stop the video, a question would come up, we would all discuss it.
Right, so it can be done
And then-
live as well, yeah.
Right, and then she'd tell us, you know, whether we were right or wrong or whatever, and then
Yeah.
the video would start again. So it can be done both ways. So that's when the first video came out.
Yes,
It
gosh,
was a
I forgot about
depressing
that.
one. I can't,
Oh,
I think it's that woman who died,
Oh, that's-
actually.
The reason I asked that is because, of course, that would be the way to more efficiently get those different constituent groups together. You've got the basic scenario there, but if Alicia's using it in social work, you know, she could insert her questions
right.
and target positions and so on.
So what I would tell you, if you visit that website, what we developed for every scenario is a faculty guide. And within the faculty guide, we have the list of the nursing competencies that are there. All the interactive questions and the answers. And then we even have a list of discussion questions. So if you wanted to just show the video and then have the student watch it and then have them go on to answer other questions, that's available as well. So almost suggests that whatever was created comes with a guide that would go with it. And that it could be, you know, that a team could work on it. So.
Does anyone have anything else they want to bring up while we're all together? Well, not all of us, but this portion of us. Unfortunately, I forgot to start recording this right at the beginning, but I will put up from the point I started recording on YouTube so other people can see it. But are there any other questions or events?
No,
Yeah, this was wonderful.
thank you. I
And
enjoyed showing.
Yes, and our next presentation, I believe, is March 16th, although Chantal and I are going to be working on the notice and it will go out, but Jackie Mayer is going to talk about some of her research, and then we'll have our networking event sometime in April.
Great.
Thank you, Ron.
Thanks for everyone out there on the screen for coming.